We are at Bode 1 in the West Hollywood Hills. This house is for sale for $19,990,000. Back in 2003, I was driving around looking for properties up in the hills, and I came across this tiny little sign at the bottom of the hill that said for sale by owner. So I rang the buzzer. Someone came down the hill. Mind you, there was no house here. It was just all mountain. And guess who it was? It was Leslie Nielsen, the actor from Naked Gun. He's owned this property since 1951. So he had it for sale, and he interviewed me 4 times. I pitched him on the architect, I'm gonna own it, and so he finally sold it to me. So I've owned this property since 2003. And then I started building this house over 8 years ago. Took 2 years to get through the city permit process, and then it took 6.5 years to build full-time construction.
The house is a new construction property, built in the last few years. It comprises 10,000 square feet, 5 bedrooms, 8 bathrooms, sitting on an acre, which is accessed through gates and up a very long private driveway. Once the gates open, you're taking up an incredibly long driveway that takes you to the house. The moment you get to the house, you're faced with the view of the entire city below. The house has tons of living space, 3 separate living rooms, a media room, separate dining room with a wine wall. It's got another living room downstairs that leads onto the pool, 1 office, which you see behind me, an incredible outdoor space on 2 levels.
This property I knew had to be all about glass, all about steel, all about floating, and my big design key is that the outside becomes the inside. Especially living in Los Angeles, you can leave the doors open. Favorite parts of my house, I would say there are many of them. So definitely the bar and lounge, because that's where everybody congregates. And it's just fun to see people mixing in the space I created. And then the master bathroom and master bedroom. It's like your little sanctuary. It's very warm and inviting. And I just love the mid-century glam flavor that the bathroom has and the coloring of it. And then of course, walking into the master closet with a double mezzanine, which I've never seen before. So that really throws people and think, oh my gosh, that's a place I would want to hang my clothes. When I grew up, I always wanted to build, as an architect, a Ferris Bueller garage. I don't know if you remember that movie where Ferris Bueller's friend had a Ferrari, his dad's Ferrari, and a giant glass garage, and he drove it out the window. Not that I want to do that. But so I said one day I'm going to build this Ferris Bueller garage. And so I did. The exterior of the house had mid-century flavors to it. So the soffits, the overhangs, I call them eyebrows. Putting the stainless steel on those eyebrows, I think gives it hyper awareness of the line of the house coming across. Also, when you come into the front entry, there's almost this aircraft type monolith that pulls you from the outside in and then goes all the way through the house and hangs over the pool. That piece just is really architecturally significant because it also matches some of the elements of steel that I've used through the house. And I think it also gives you a sense of the elevation that's pulling you at an angle linear to what the city is doing. If I had to describe this house in a sentence, I would say that this house is like living in the sky in a modern world where you are surrounded by art and architecture and the beauty that Los Angeles has to give you.
We are at 1061 Loma Vista Drive in Beverly Hills, Los Angeles, and this home is on the market for $24,950,000.
So I always have this attachment to old, art and vintage home and cars. And when I started to restore vintage home, You know, a lot of people say, oh, you know, you can buy a house and sell it. And I say, you have to love what you do. Because at the end, you can buy a house and make the same amount, you know, and if you hate what you do, there's no point. My name is Philippe Naouri, and I am a mid-century developer.
1061 Loma Vista Drive was designed in 1959 by noted architect Rex Lottery.
Rex Lottery was considered as a master architect. He also built another one that Elvis Presley was living in. And he was one of the greatest architects of the 20th century. But he's only known by the people who really know architecture. At the time, he built it for Corinne Calvé, and they was a smaller house. And it was one of the first house done in Truesdale. And typically, the house was designed after Charlotte Perriand was a big influence about this architecture of the house. I saw it was on the market for like $8 million at the time. And loved the house, loved the significance of the house. I talked with my partner, and he's like, yeah, you know, it's a good house, you should check it out. The back part of the house was sinking. Everything was in very bad condition, like beyond repair. But I love the house, I love the feeling of the house, I love everything about the house. Nobody really wanted to take out of the project because the house was a historical house, so you cannot tear it down, you have to save it. So we talked to the family, the four brothers, and they were kind of happy, saying we're going to save it, and I guess they took our offer, and that's we got it. At the beginning, when we took the house was only 4,300 square feet. The architect that they hired at the time, his name was Tim Campbell. They had a plan to extend it for like 9,000 square feet. And so I met him, he was super nice, and we decided, let's do the project. But I have no idea how long it's going to take it. I thought it's going to take me like a year and a half. And almost 4.5 years later, we just completed.
The home was expanded and restored for modern living while honoring its mid-century modern style.
Mid-century home design is a lot of clean line, open space, very simple living. And at the time, they were like cheap houses. I mean, it was like very affordable for people. All the houses were like done with a certain budget. The architect in Campbell was very clever on the choice of material. We were very careful on we created the original woodwork that you see on the ceiling with a clear story. So everything was actually original. But what we did, we make the house livable to the standard of the 20th century. Because at the time it was really not livable, there was no AC, the fireplace was blocking all the view of the pool was small, the master was looking at the street. So technically we doubled the size of the house to make it a larger home, but nobody can tell that there was any addition in the house because it was made with respect for the architecture.
The 6-bedroom, 8-bathroom home spans over 8,800 square feet.
So technically it was one building with a clear story, and we make it 3 buildings. So we had another building here, another building here where the master is. And it was a small basement that we connected with the outdoor stair, and we had glass, so we can go straight to the movie theater down below in the wine room. It's like a painting, this is like a masterpiece. That really is. Tim Campbell came with a clever idea to add the skylight when you take a shower and you look at kind of the star at night, so it was like really, really cool. Also, the pool was extended, so technically that's kind of my favorite part of the house because the pool was the center of the house. We wanted to create a courtyard, so everywhere you go you can look at the pool, but also because this house doesn't have a view, you know, of the city or the ocean, we wanted to create a view. It's like being in a resort and very enclosed and kind of being in vacation all the time. The people who are going to end up with this house in the future will really have something that cannot be recreated. I mean, it's just one of a kind. When you come here, it's just a special feeling to be in this house. And that's the goal we wanted to achieve, and I think we did achieve it. It's not a house. To me, it's a piece of art.
This is 9420 Readcrest Drive, and it's on the market for $25 million. We're in a very special, modern, eclectic home. This home is 7,500 square feet. There's 4 bedrooms and 5.5 baths. That's not to mention underneath the pool, there's another 2,700 square feet with 14-foot ceilings. It's really a great marriage between the designer and the developer. What really stands out to me here is the use of the organic material, like the ironwork out front and throughout the home.
My background is fashion, menswear, and it was all about details. It's about final touches. It was all about bringing a product that would actually bring in all the elements, organic elements, because as a human, we are very in touch with earth. And that's why we didn't want to build a house that it was ultra modern. We wanted to be eclectic, which basically means you bring 4 or 5 different elements from earth together and create something very warm.
Organic has always played a big role in our commercial and residential projects, and we try to bring that into our houses as much as possible, whether it's the sculptural pieces that we bring in or just the materials that we use. I think our role was to come in here and see some of the issues that were kind of like outstanding here and try to see how we can start solving some of them and taking it sort of to the next level that, you know, and closer to a lot of projects that we do. This was kind of an unusual situation for us where we were here where there was already some design done on the project. There were some issues with the layout and the way that the house flowed, and they really wanted us to look at it and see how we can kind of take it to the next level and try to do things with it differently.
It's very ultra modern and timeless, but we brought in a natural stone, iron, steel, rough woods, and glass. And all of that woven together, it creates harmonious design that when you are coming into it, you feel at home, you feel comfortable, you feel relieved.
The entrance, this massive door, it just gives you a sense of entrance and prestige. Every time I come in it, I feel like I'm in a bird's nest. You know, I get to go look out onto the Pacific. It's actually like a living, breathing thing. It's not a traditional modern where it feels very sterile. Each room has its own vantage point and vignette onto the city, which is rare and something that I haven't experienced often.
People usually book match the backsplash or your shower, area. But in here, you can take a look. All this stone, which is about 20,000 square feet of it, they're all book matched. And for that, we had to buy boulders overseas to cut it in a specific, all of them, all the slabs were numbered. So when they come in and install it, your eyes actually would follow the lines. It doesn't break it. And that's why I'm saying when you look at final touches and details, matters because you don't know why, but you're looking at stone, there is no stop. All the vein follow and the curves, and it makes a huge difference, even though you don't know why. There's a lot of metal facade in the house that, outside especially, that we leave it to rust, because that's how nature talks about if you leave a piece of metal outside uncovered, what's going to happen to it is going to rust, right? Same thing here.
That our work is textural, tactile, and it's about materials and how they go together and all that stuff. So when we pick those panels, we try to use them in a way where even if they were being used in a different way, it's the same material. Like for example, I think when we're going down the stairs, there's the same Haisha panel that's on all of these walls, introducing sort of this fin, this metal fin that kind of separates and kind of gives these proportions to the panels. And then as you go down the stairs, then the same panel starts getting CNC'd, where it has the same pattern of the tree that's being perforated outside, that's being carved into the stone. So I think these materials serve their purpose in many different ways. The wood panels that we've used in the kitchen, the cabinets, those kind of have sort of had that, along with the white oak panels that we've used everywhere else, have been sort of the other two materials that we've used throughout the house.
What I really love is this onyx bar here. It's just so special. It's not grandiose, but it's subtle and special. And I just think that, you know, they always say that the kitchen's the hub of the house, the heart of the house. And I can just imagine myself spending so much time here with friends and serving drinks and just relaxing by the bar.
I think we were really successful with a lot of the lighting that we did here, both the exterior, like the sort of the bamboo lights, and the other sculptural kind of like spherical lights that are kind of like angled and all that stuff, to the interior lights with the Eden lighting that we use throughout the house, and the suspended lights and all these other sort of lights in the dining room and the entry and all that stuff. So I think I'm sort of really proud of what we did with the lighting here. I think it really came together really well.
I would describe this house as something that landed from the moon, something really special. It's just got so many interesting unknown elements. If you can peel back all the wood, all the iron, all the marble, and to see how well that these guys attacked the build, and I was here every week and watching the progress of this home. I just think that the quality of the construction is unsurpassable. It's the best construction I've seen in all my 18 years.
We're at 813 Palms Boulevard in Venice. The area is Millwood, and it's one of the finest, most desirable streets and blocks in the entire city of Venice. The price we're asking is $8,250,000.
My house is unexpected, I think, and that's why people react so enthusiastically to it. It's a completely open home. When I'm here, I feel like I'm on vacation. I have all the windows open, and it's literally like an indoor-outdoor home. Unlike a lot of homes in Venice where people max out the lot because real estate is so expensive, it was actually more important to me to have a balance of indoor and outdoor space. So I could have built a home that was at least twice as big as this, and I chose not to because it was important to me to have a lot of functional outdoor space.
The square footage is going to be about 3,500 feet on a 7,600 square foot lot. This is a multi-compound lot. It is a street-to-street lot. You have a neighbor only on one side of you, which is really rare and unique in Venice. 4 bedrooms inside, 3 down. The entire top floor is a 1,000 square foot master suite. So it was created specifically to take advantage of the weather in California and Venice. All the rooms have a real indoor-outdoor flow, and there are 6 designated and separate outdoor spaces in the house, including 2 rooftop decks with views.
There were 2 old homes here. They were really dilapidated. The property had been unlived in for probably at least 15 years, and it was an eyesore for decades.
When I saw this lot, I saw the lot is the house. So when the doors are open, like you're sitting outside, I wanted it to feel like you're still in the house, like you're in another part of the house if you're outside, or you're inside looking out. You're always capturing something in the exterior.
The design took probably about a year, and then it took a year and a half to build. I had been planning for 15 years to create a really interesting home. So it was a collection of a lot of little elements of interest that I hoped to include in this home, and it was a matter of trying to include as many as possible without making it a freak show.
I see this house as being set apart from other houses in Venice because I think it was more of an intuitive process. We didn't really follow any form. A lot of the work revolved around Todd's art. So we were integrating the art into the house, and some of the architectural moves we made dictated that.
This house evokes joy and happiness. The colors, the openness, the light that shines in. There are art installations all over the house, inside and out. For instance, this is the first and only residential property in the world that has an art installation by renowned anonymous French street artist, Invader.
That was a 3.5-year stressful, emotional, taxing, exhilarating experience. I had contacted him when I owned my prior Venice house, And this time I approached him through an art gallery in Belgium. I was very mindful of the need to walk a fine line between getting what I want and not spooking him, and negotiating with someone who's anonymous, whose name I don't know. As a part of that, I offered to sign an NDA. I also told him I would give him access to my house for a week. I would shut down construction so that he could come at any time, day or night. And he came and installed the mosaic on a Friday night. And it's probably the most definable element of my home. And it's had a much broader kind of acceptance in the neighborhood than I ever thought. I've had people send me postcards of my house. I've had people stop me on the street and ask me about it.
Throughout the house, there are indoor, outdoor ceramic tiles, all individually created by renowned Venice artist Steve Fleitz. And then one of my favorite pieces actually doesn't come with the house. You'll notice this 20-foot wall outside that says, "Hi, how are you?" which is a famous piece that Kurt Cobain wore on a t-shirt that an artist by the name of Daniel Johnston created. The owner of this house, when he created this house, actually negotiated for 2 years to commission him to let him paint this "Hi, how are you" frog on the side of the house. And he agreed to let him do it with the one prerequisite that he had to paint over it before the new owner took possession. The great part is the current owner will paint over it and have an artist paint a mural of the buyer's choice.
I think it's unusual for a client to put so much of themselves into a house, especially in the way Todd has done it. I think it's awesome when people put that much care into their living environment.
What I love about this house is it is a real artistic compound. You get the feel of a place you can comfortably live and creatively work. And I think melding those two in today's day and age is priceless. And I think there's no other place in the world like this. It is really a living and livable art piece.
$59 million waterfront mansion in Miami's billionaire bunker could become America's most expensive Bitcoin real estate deal ever. For roughly 1,900 Bitcoin at today's conversion rate, or $59 million, Ivanka Trump, Tom Brady, Spanish crooner Julio Iglesias, billionaire investor Carl Icahn, and dozens of other A-listers could soon become your neighbors in Miami's most coveted address. Known as Miami's billionaire bunker, Indian Creek Island, located off Miami Beach, is by almost every measure the most exclusive, secure, and celebrity-saturated residential enclave in America. Most properties on the island are selling for north of $40 million. For Indian Creek Island's 40 current residents, many of whom already pay millions annually for privacy and security everywhere else they go, that's exactly the way they like it. The roughly 300-acre island is accessible by only a 2-lane gated bridge stationed by armed guards. Indian Creek also maintains its 24-hour police force and marine patrol to keep tourists and especially paparazzi away from its well-heeled residents. And Indian Creek Country Club, whose William Flynn designed golf course has fewer members than Augusta National, takes up the entire center of the island, ensuring that no new development can ever play through. The island's newest listing, 37 Indian Creek Island Road, hit the market earlier this year at $59 million. And given Miami's currently supercharged luxury real estate market, there's a good chance it will eventually sell for more than that. The mansion is being built by Miami Beach developer Todd Michael Glazer and 3 partners who bought the property last summer from legendary variety show host Mario Louise Kreutzberger Blumenfeld. After the sale closed, the partnership promptly announced plans to demolish Blumenfeld's existing 1987 home and replace it with something more fitting of a modern-day Bitcoin billionaire looking for a statement property. The spec mansion sprawls across nearly 16,000 square feet of modernist glass, wood, and concrete on a 1.25-acre lot and features architecture and interiors by acclaimed Miami design firm Kobe Karp. The main level will have 12-foot ceilings with a club room, chef and prep kitchens, a media room, and a full gym and exercise studio. The waterfront backyard includes 134 feet of bay frontage, docks for yachts up to 110 feet, and an infinity pool with tanning beds perfectly positioned to watch the sun rise and set. The house will have 12 bedrooms, 13 bathrooms, and 3 half bathrooms, and is expected to take up to 18 months to complete. The biggest question now is whether 37 Indian Creek sells on blockchain or the old-fashioned way. the real estate implications of a crypto sale are far greater than who Tom and Giselle have as their neighbors.
My name is David Hertz, and I'm the architect at the Hollywood Bowl House, and it's currently on the market for $11 million. So this house is on 2 lots, multiple buildings, over 7,000 square feet, 5 bedrooms, and up to 9 baths. This is the most expensive house on the market in Venice right now. I have a record of the most expensive houses ever being sold in Venice historically, and they hold their value. What makes the Hollywood Bowl House unique and its namesake is that it's made from the benches of the Hollywood Bowl, complete with the provenance that has. You can imagine the sound that's imbued in every piece of wood in the house. And we like to think that the spirit of the Hollywood Bowl, the happiness and the music that's there is embodied in the house. The Hollywood Bowl House actually is now one unified house, but it didn't start that way. My client had owned 1 lot that had multiple units on it and a little craftsman bungalow, and then bought the adjacent lot, which was vacant. And so the idea was to try to weave these multi-units together into one cohesive whole. And so we actually lifted up the bungalow and to put a garage underneath, and then took out all the walls of separate stairs and separate entrances to the multi-units, and then built a new building on the vacant lot, and then weaved them all together into one seamless house. So part of the idea of the Craftsman is to preserve this cute little 1940s bungalow with the siding and everything on the site, and actually connect it to the other buildings. But to satisfy the code requirement, we had to provide parking underneath it. And so literally one just jacks the house up and just raises the house and then builds a building underneath it. It was a tiny little house, about 500 square feet, that had blue clapboard siding, and that is all still intact. It's just that instead of being on the ground floor, it's now up on the 2nd floor, and it's integrated around an outdoor deck, so that you literally leave the house, you go outside, and then you go into the Craftsman house that's on the 2nd story. And so it feels like you would have a little house next door, but it's all on the 2nd floor. I was very interested in a dramatic entrance, and having a giant wall that's 2 stories high, that's clad in teak, that pivots so that you open up, almost makes it feel like you're walking underneath a house that's outside rather than into a house. You see the stairwell, the mezzanine, that there's courtyards inside of the house, so there's natural light everywhere and you're flowing right inside. So, you know, there's some really interesting dynamic pieces with that we've got all these functions into this small series of lots. I've been practicing architecture almost 40 years, and when I started, I really started as an environmentalist. So I tried to, my whole career, work to lessen the impacts of the built environment on the natural, but to use it as a progenitor for design, not an afterthought. But you know, if I'm going to incorporate some recycled material, that's a wonderful thing. During the process, we found out that the Hollywood Bowl seating, which was all made out of cedar that was quite old, with planks with numbers that were debossed into it, was going to be replaced. And so we ended up being able to buy a large percentage of the seating itself and then use it as the siding with the numbers and everything in there, so that there's really a provenance, a story behind this texture to the walls, and why are there numbers, and why is there a weathered, aged surface. That's all part of the character of the house. The house is an integrated whole that is designed to generate 100% of its own electricity, to capture stormwater, to use daylight, to use natural ventilation, to use not only reclaimed materials, but also natural, non-toxic materials. So there's a real emphasis on exposed finishes, exposed concrete that's unsealed, that's natural reclaimed teak flooring throughout the house. And there's a certain earthiness and warmth to the house because of the honest expression of these natural materials.